Okay, we are going to begin tonight's post-race availabilities. We are now joined by the winning crew chief of the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Phil Surgen with the #1 Trackhouse Racing Chevrolet team. Phil, 600 miles worth of strategy and certain adjustments. Can you just go through on the key ones that ultimately led to you taking away the victory tonight?
Yeah, 600 is a long race. Starting 40th today, we had a lot of work to do, and we spent the first half the race really just kind of slowly chipping away at it. And in stage one, we got caution came out unfortunately and set us back. We had gained 10 or 12 spots and set us back 5 or 6 of those. So a little bit of a reset halfway through stage one again, but it was really just a slow progression. We started the race a little bit tight. We knew that the balance would come to us as we got better track position, but we were kind of banking on that. So over the course of stage 2, we had a green flag cycle that kind of proved that the car was where it needed to be once we had clean air. So kind of had a baseline to work off of, but like I said, just a slow progression. And putting ourselves in position to start stage 3 in the top 5 was important. And ultimately, that last cycle and Denny being short on fuel allowed us to be a contender.
All right, well, we'll begin opening it up to questions. If you have one, we'll raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. We'll start with Jacob, then we'll go to Jordan.
Jacob Seelman, Race Face Digital. Phil, 2 for you first. Ross was actually talking about it on the post-race show a minute ago. Take me back to the environment from Saturday night when you guys are building the backup car. Ross said a lot of guys didn't leave till 2:30 in the morning, got maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I mean, what was that whole process like for you guys as a team, and what's the emotion that he was able to pay all that effort off with a win?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually enjoy answering this one. Yesterday in practice, we rolled out there and we were really fast. I think we were fastest on 5:10, 20 lap averages, and then blew a tire. So pretty deflating in the moment where recently we've not been the fastest. We've lacked a little bit of speed, and this week we roll out and we're really fast and crash. So pretty deflating midday on Saturday, and then this group of guys that I've got is relentless, and there was no question that everybody was going to give every bit of effort they had. And we brought the car back to the shop, and we probably had 30 people come in. We had, obviously all the road crew that was at the track was there. We had engine support from ECR. We had, shop guys that were at concerts and ball games and everything that just dropped what they were doing, came to the shop. And like I said, probably 30 people there at 8:30 last night. And as the night wore on and, different stages of the process kind of evolved, we sent some of those guys home, and the last of us, there was probably 8 or 10 of us that left at 2:30 last night, and the first guys got back there at 5:30. So, a couple hours of sleep and back at it this morning. And we worked all the way up until the wire until we had to reinspect today at 2 p.m.
And from your perspective, what's it been like to have a driver like Ross behind the wheel who, much like your crew guys, is not afraid to put every ounce of himself into this? And you use the word relentless, and I like that because I felt like watching him that last run, it was either I'm going to win this race or I'm going to put this car back in the wall trying to win this race.
Yeah, for sure. And when he passed the 11 and the 24 was right ahead of him, I think that was just an example of that. I mean, it was a risky move, but when the wind's on the line, you're willing to risk a little bit more. And yeah, it's awesome. And that's what you need. It's a requirement for drivers to have that desire and that drive to just zone in. And you can feel it when it's happening. You can feel those moments when the car's good and the driver's zoned in. You can tell in the tone of his voice and how he's driving the car and how fast it is and the risk level that he's willing to assume. You can just tell as it's kind of shaping up. And with 15 or 20 to go, we're catching him maybe a tenth, half a tenth a lap. We didn't hear from him on the radio, but we all knew what was happening there, and that's a requirement to win these races these days.
Come up front to Jordan next.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. The perception is that Trackhouse maybe doesn't have the speed in its cars, at least consistently, week in and week out. It seems like Ross has really been doing kind of a Herculean effort to really kind of carry the cars maybe to higher than what they have been. Is that realistic, or what has Ross been doing this year? Because it seems like he's been doing a lot more and really pushing this team to a higher plane.
Yeah, I think some of that may be real, and some of that's maybe just the narrative. Our Saturdays haven't been real good. Our practice speed has just been average, and our qualifying hasn't been very good. Certainly a step worse than it has been in the past. By about mid-race on Sundays, we're able to get car balanced and driving right, and we're able to execute pretty well. Execute on pit road, execute with strategy. We get the car driving pretty well, and we're able to finish in the top 10 at a lot of these intermediate tracks. Certainly we've had hiccups. Kansas wasn't great, Homestead wasn't great, but by the time Sunday rolls around, we can put the whole package together. And sure, we want a little bit more speed, and we certainly want a little smoother Saturday, a little better qualifying that allows us to pick a better pit stall, and all which contributes to more race success.
The knock on Ross, through 2022, 2023, maybe was he wasn't always finishing races as well as he was running, right? Something would happen, he maybe get impatient or whatever. It seems like now there's almost like a different Ross behind the wheel, like much more of a bigger perspective on let's make sure we get there, and then putting himself in position and then capitalizing. Is that a fair perception?
Yeah, certainly. And I think that's true with anybody. With experience and with time, and in this case with race starts and competing in the top 10 and in the top 5 and winning races, you learn and people evolve, and he has too. The Ross today is certainly a more well-rounded driver due to those experiences over the last few years.
All right, we got time for a few more questions. We'll come up to Dustin, then we'll go to Matt, then we'll come back to Kelly.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Phil, can you give me a sense of perspective? Essentially, you rebuilt this the backup car in a day. The car that was wrecked yesterday, can you give me a sense of how much time and effort was put into that car? And here you come back and win on a car that was built in one day. I mean, did you spend was it the car that was crashed had been worked on for 3 weeks to prepare for this, or 4 weeks or something like that?
Yeah, so the normal build cycle is 3 to 4 weeks, depending on how we're turning over chassis. Every team's allotted 7 chassis, so we have to use them in a cycle that makes sense. And the typical build cycle is 3 to 4 weeks, and that's 6:30 to 3:30 Monday through Friday, and it goes through every stage of the build process, from chassis assembly to the body assembly to suspension, engine install, dyno, final setup. So the cadence is a little bit different. The car that we won with tonight was slated to be a Nashville backup car. So it wasn't just a pile of parts when we walked in at 3 o'clock yesterday. It was a fully assembled car. It had been set up. It actually had been chassis dyno. It didn't have an engine in it anymore. So when we got there, there was certainly a ton of work to do. We put a good bit of interior in it. We changed transaxle. We had to use the engine from the primary car that was at the racetrack. And then there's, the wrap, final set on suspension, final set on the body, and then final scale and such, all those last minute adjustments. So number of hours, it's hard to say. Like I mentioned earlier to the gentleman over there, I mean, we had 30 people working there for a while, and into the night that dwindled down to maybe 10. But, it was a ton of man hours in the last, 36 hours that went into the car we had today.
How much sleep have you had in the last night?
2.5 hours.
So today you get here at 1 o'clock, go through inspection, get through that, and when garage officially opens, you can do the changes to the car. I think eventually when the car gets done, you've got a little bit of time. What in that little bit of time today before the race were you able to do? Are you thinking about Nashville? Are you trying to take a cat nap, or how are you trying to relax before this race with 2 hours of sleep?
Yeah, it was a little bit more stress today, and frankly, a little bit less time. Even though we got here a little bit early to do inspection, and we got through inspection pretty quickly, and we did warm-ups on time with all the other cars in the garage, and then there really isn't a whole lot of time on Sundays between warm-ups and race time. We come back to the hauler, collect the last little bit of notes. We have a team meeting with all the drivers, crew chiefs, and spotters, and then I had a team meeting with the one guys, eat dinner, and it's time to walk out to pit road and get set up out there.
Let's get a mic over to Matt here.
Matt Weaver, The Sporting News. Does the spec car nature of the next gen make it easier not to quickly build the car or unload it, but to have faith or confidence that it's plug and play and just put the setup in and it'll be as good as your very fast primary was?
I wouldn't agree with plug and play, but you can take all the parts. It's time consuming and it's labor intensive, but you can make all the cars nearly as good as the others. But it takes a long time to do that. There's a lot of intricacies with these cars. Years ago, we were dealing in eighths and quarters of an inch, and now we're dealing in 5 thou and 10 thou. Like, the increments that we're talking about the scales have changed in magnitude of what used to matter to what matters now. So the complexity of the equipment we use just to measure the cars is, significantly different than what it was before. And all the parts are available. So before, building a body was not possible overnight, but you could put a next-gen body together overnight because you can just take parts off the shelf. Configuring them correctly at the level of detail that it takes to run, in the front 10 at a cup race is a Herculean effort.
And then, excuse me, missing the playoffs last year, and it starts without you guys. Obviously, you guys stayed competitive, were in the mix, won a race. But does it feel any different knowing that show goes on without you and you're not a part of it, and now you guys are again?
Yeah, I mean, in this sport, the goal every season is a championship. And if you don't make the playoffs, you don't even have the opportunity to compete for that. So winning a race in the regular season, advancing to the playoffs is huge. It just ensures that you still are capable of achieving the ultimate goal that you set out to do every year.
All right, for the sake of time, we'll take one final question with Kelly over here on the right.
Kelly Kinder, Racer.com. Phil, the initial plan yesterday was to fix the primary car. Can you walk through when it was realized that it was just too much, or what was maybe the one part or piece that couldn't be repaired, and how difficult was that decision after seeing how fast it had been in practice?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is true. Yesterday, we drug it into the garage and we started doing some initial analysis on what was bent and broken and need to be replaced. And as we started pulling parts off, it just became more evident that there was, a section of the rear frame that was bent, probably beyond repair. And then at that moment, it became, a necessity to go to a backup car. And unfortunately, that was probably an hour or an hour and a half after we got to the garage and had already started working on repairing the primary car. So although it took a long time to identify, by the time we got all the parts, in the car disassembled to the point where we could, fully see all the damage, it was evident we needed to go to a backup car.
I think Ross got about 20 laps in practice, and we saw that he was fastest in, 10, 15, 20 lap averages. What was learned in those laps that when you guys put the backup car together, that could you take anything? Was there any lessons of, can we apply this to the backup car to make it just as fast?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. With the next gen car and with any race car, the baseline that we established in practice. We take meticulous notes and measurements on every part and piece of that car, and in order to be able to replicate it for Sunday today from the car we had on Saturday, we have meticulous notes that we can take from this car today and apply to Nashville or to Michigan. So that knowledge of what we had on the track on Saturday, what that setup was, what that configuration was, and knowing that was fast and competitive in the conditions on Saturday, we took all that knowledge and applied it to Sunday, and we made some small adjustments for weather conditions today, longer runs today, and we're able to put it together pretty well.
All right, Phil. Well, congrats on the win tonight. Thanks for coming in and get some much-deserved rest.
Thank you.